Holly, you're co-hosted it. If you could help watch the door as well, it would be greatly appreciated. And just hit admit when they come in. Are you kicking it off, Trish?
I'm ready. Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website and podcast. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow along. In accordance with our group conscience on October 3rd of 2023, we will also be posting our podcast on YouTube. We feel this is an effective way to carry our message to those seeking recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous, and in both formats it is audio only, no pictures. Tonight's recap will start on page 22 and end on page 25. Our study tonight will start on page 25 and end on page 26, and we'll also be reading Appendix 2, the Spiritual Experience. And do we have any announcements?
We do. Good evening, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic. So, to all the home group members, there was a survey sent out that goes directly to our delegate. It will be in your emails from Trish. Please take the survey. It is concerning our literature. And what they are asking in it is questions like, do we think that the first 100 would approve of us changing the literature and so on to different language and so on. We had a bit of a discussion with a few of us last night about what this really means. So I would just ask all of you to please be prayerful and ask your God to direct your answers as you go through the process. And my only thought in that is, if Alcoholics Anonymous has worked for us, why wouldn't it still work for the newcomer? You know, it's really pretty simple. And if not, we could be in danger of losing some of our historical text. So just take that into prayerful consideration, please.
And also for our home group members, we will have a group conscience on January 15th, Monday in 2 weeks. All are welcome to attend our home group meetings, but only home group members of record prior to the start of the meeting will be eligible for voting.
Okay, I have one.
Yes.
I think it's January 22nd or the 23rd. William will be celebrating his 32nd year at Serenity on Fish, which meets on Monday on Zoom platform. I think I could put the information in the text.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that right, William?
Thank you, Kenny. The 22nd. Thank you, Kenny.
Okay, and William, I think you invited Richard to the meeting. He's having trouble getting in. Can you give him a quick call and guide him to getting in, if you can? He's having trouble getting into the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your service. And good evening, family. I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Jamie. Welcome to the Lewisburg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of silent meditation followed by our family's fog light prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Trish. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted, and sharing is not to distract others or yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. And just as a friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. please keep yourself muted during someone else's share, and we will call on you in the order that hands are raised.
From the foreword to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are: focus on your breath and posture, breathe in God, and breathe out self. And Trish, just as a reminder, did you remember to start your recorder?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
Take this time to reconnect with God. Let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study.
And let's invite the cute little monks in to do what the monks do and help us get centered with God. Enjoy your time with God, folks. Thank you. And for those of you who wish to join us in our family's Foglight Prayer to open this meeting, it's on your screen in front of you. Foglight Prayer. God, let your love shine through us like a foglight, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
And let's have our secretary's report. Come on in, Molly.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Molly, and I'm your recovered alcoholic secretary. I have asked Kenny to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered, rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Kenny.
Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. Page 23 of the big book. We are now saying where alcohol is concerned. Thank you. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you, Kenny. All right, thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a big book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX. Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapse, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. And we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time. Hi,
Welcome,
Jim.
Jim.
Welcome.
And I believe we have a couple of others. Betty, welcome. JT, welcome. Richard, welcome. Glad to have you all with us tonight.
Yes, welcome to the group. Let's see. And then the recovered alcoholics. These are your potential sponsors. All right. So can we have is anyone celebrating a milestone this week?
Hi, I'm Lynn. I'm an alcoholic. I'll be celebrating 23 months on Saturday.
Great.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Right on, lady. Excellent. Anybody else? Related Pickle Maryland. Oh, that was a clap. Never mind. I saw a hand up. Let's see. If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail.
Polly,
Delivery time is
Marilyn does have her hand up.
Oh, she does have her hand up. Okay. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Do you have a milestone?
No, I'm trying to get it down.
Okay, we can take care of that for you.
It was a class though.
Okay. Delivery time questionable. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal posted in the chat. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in the chat. Thank you and see you next week.
Thank you so much for your service, Molly. William, I think Richard is still having trouble connecting to audio. Maybe you can call him. I don't think he's connected. He's here, but he's not connected. Maybe you can help him out with that. Greatly appreciated, sir. From Chapter 2, there is a solution. Tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree, and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 6. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 7. please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous.
And I'm Jamie. I'm still an alcoholic, and our traditionalist was unable to be with us tonight, so I'm going to fill in the spot. And tonight we are on Tradition 7. The short version of Step 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. The long form. The Alcoholics Anonymous groups themselves ought to be fully self-supported by voluntary contributions of their own members. We think that each group should soon achieve this ideal, that any public solicitation of funds using the name of Alcoholics Anonymous is highly dangerous, whether by groups, clubs, or hospitals, or other outside agencies. That acceptance of large gifts from any source or of contributions carrying the obligation, whatever, is unwise. Then, too, we view with much concern those AA treasuries which continue beyond the prudent reserves to accumulate funds for no stated AA purpose. Experience has often warned us that nothing can surely destroy our spiritual heritage as feudal disputes over property, money, and authority. And I absolutely love this tradition. And one of the things that good sponsorship has taught me is that the seventh tradition is spiritual giving. If I am a member of a home group and I have a voice in that home group, I have a say-so and a voice in what the money does within the group and beyond the group. If I happen to go to another meeting somewhere and I throw $1 in the basket as a contribution for them providing me a cup of coffee and a chair and a place to listen, learn, and share, then that's up to their business meeting, whatever they do with that. And it's not my choice. And it's really not my business what other groups do with their seventh tradition contributions. Hopefully they do something spiritual with it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do here in Primary Purpose. Through several group consciences, as our group has grown, as our service commitments have grown, it's important for you to know where the money goes and what it does. In our particular case, it pays for the Zoom room for the year. It pays for the website. It pays for the security on the website. We buy large print big books and we send them out. We send them out regularly for free. We've never charged for a big book for anybody in this, and we mail them wherever they live in the country. And it's a joy and honor to be able to give that service to others. Outside of our group, after we have decided what we need to do, and we have decided in this group that our operating costs are $2,500 a year. That might seem like a lot for a Zoom group, but some of the things that we do with that is we send our GSR to assembly 4 times a year. And here in state of Tennessee, going to an assembly could be several hundred miles, hotel expenses and so on, and we pay for that representative to go and represent the group. And we do those kinds of service commitments beyond the group. We also contribute to the other entities of Alcoholics Anonymous. We contribute to central office and intergroup, and to our district level, and to GSO, and to our area to help support them. The entire service structure of Alcoholics Anonymous, right up to the New York office, is all supported by whatever money you happen to put in the basket. It doesn't come from outside sources. So there again, it comes back to the idea of spiritual giving. Every time I put money in the basket, it's not so much that it helps me, but it is there to help ensure that Alcoholics Anonymous will be there for the next sick and suffering alcoholic, for the future of Alcoholics Anonymous to be here. So that's what I have for you on Tradition 7 tonight. And it is time for our weekly segment of That Ain't in the Book. And we hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with, as the program is described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. What follows are some of the things we hear, along with what the Big Book actually has to say on the subject. One of those things we hear is there are no musts in the program, and Lynn is going to come in and share with us a passage from the book of what the program actually has to say about that. Welcome, Lynn. You're muted, dear.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I will say, whatever our ideal turns out to be, we must be willing to grow toward it.
Thank you so much, my friend.
As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
Let me turn the page here. In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book study guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight we are going to start our recap on page 22,
22,
which will be read tonight by Jim, followed by our study portion, which will be read by Cherry and a little bit by Art.
Very good. Thank you, Trish. And after the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back at where the study portion begins tonight. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified. Multi-part questions are simply one-sentence answers, split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
You like that line?
I do.
Basically, in English, what that means is we're going to read the material once through, then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we have completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, observations based on what we just read. And please, folks, if you've had spiritual experience with this work, please, by all means, feel free to share. Please keep your share on topic around the 5-minute mark, and at the 5-minute mark, I'll probably hold up a cute little fuzz bucket who's digging his way to China here to let you know that your time is up.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, for example with a sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of our co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps, is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
And before we get started, let's take a quick look at how we got here. We didn't just randomly open the book to page 22 or 25 and say, this is it tonight. This meeting started just about 4 years ago in Jamie's house.
4 more days.
And it was an in-person meeting, and then like everywhere else in the country, COVID hit, the meeting shut down for a little while, and it came back first hybrid and then all Zoom. And it's a 94-week study. We study about a page and a half each week so that we can make sure we can really dive into what the content is of the week that we're studying. And we start on the title page and we read every line and every sentence of the forwards, the prefaces, every chapter, all the way through page 164. We also visit Dr. Bob's Nightmare and the traditions. And as a part of the study, 3 different times, we include Appendix 2, the spiritual experience, within the study portion. And we also spend 1 week on that all by itself because it's that important section in our book. So tonight will be the first of a few times that we visit a spiritual experience. And by going line by line and page by page, that's how we made it to page 22 tonight.
And before we start the recap, which will be in just 1 second, we'll need 5 or 6 hands raised to be question answers tonight as well. And we thank you for your participation. And we will be doing part of There Is a Solution and then going to the spiritual experience as part of tonight's study. So it's one of those weeks where we kind of make a jump in the book, and it's kind of cool. And on that note, I would like to invite our new friend Jim in to read our recap with you, for you. And Jim, you can go ahead and unmute. And thank you for joining us and stepping right up to the plate.
All right, fantastic. I am Jim, and I am an alcoholic. Okay, and this is our recap, starting on page 22. This is by no means a comprehensive picture of the true alcoholic, as our behavior patterns vary, but this description should identify him roughly. Why does he behave like this? If hundreds of experiences have shown him that one drink means another debacle with all its attendant suffering and humiliation, why is it he takes that one drink? Why can't he stay on the water wagon? What has become of the common sense and willpower that he still sometimes displays with respect to other matters? Perhaps there will never be a full answer to these questions. Opinions vary considerably as to why the alcoholic reacts differently from normal people. We are not sure why. Once a certain point is reached, little can be done for him. We cannot answer the riddle. We know that while the alcoholic keeps away from drink, as he may do for months or years, he reacts much like other men. We are equally positive that once he takes any alcohol whatever into his system, something happens, both in the bodily and mental sense, which makes it virtually impossible for him to stop. The experience of any alcoholic will abundantly confirm this. These observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. If you ask him why he started on that last bender, the chances are he will offer you any one of 100 alibis. Sometimes these excuses have a certain plausibility, but none of them really make sense in the light of the havoc an alcoholic's drinking bout creates. They sound like the philosophy of the man who, having a headache, beats himself on the head with a hammer so that he can't feel the ache. If you draw this fallacious reasoning to the attention of the alcoholic, he will laugh it off or become irritated and refuse to talk. Once in a while he may tell the truth, and the truth, strange to say, is usually that he has no more idea why he took the first drink than you have. Some drinkers have excuses which they are satisfied part of the time, but in their hearts they really do not know why they do it. Once once this malady has a real hold, they are a baffled lot. There is the obsession that somehow, someday, they will beat the game, but they often suspect that they are down for the count. How true this is, few realize. In a vague way, their families and friends sense that these drinkers are abnormal, but everybody hopefully awaits the day when the sufferer will rouse himself from his lethargy and assert his power of will. The tragic truth is that if the man be a real alcoholic, the happy day may not arrive. He has lost control. At a certain point in the drinking of every alcoholic, he passes into a state where the most powerful desire to stop drinking is of absolutely no avail. This tragic situation has already arrived in practically every case long before it is suspected. Okay. The fact that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink. The almost certain consequences that follow taking even a glass of beer do not crowd into the mind to deter us. If these thoughts occur, they are hazy and readily supplanted with the old threadbare idea that this time we shall handle ourselves like other people. There is a complete failure of the kind of defense that keeps one from putting his hand on a hot stove. The alcoholic may say to himself in the most casual way, "It won't burn me this time, so here's how." Or perhaps he doesn't think at all. How often have some of us begun to drink in this nonchalant way, and after the third or fourth, pounded on the bar and said to ourselves, "For God's sake, how did I ever get started again?" Only to have that thought supplanted by, "Well, I'll stop on the sixth drink," or "What's the use anyhow?" When this sort of thinking is fully established in an individual with alcoholic tendencies, he has probably placed himself beyond human aid, and unless locked up, he may die or go permanently insane. These stark and ugly facts have been confirmed by legions of alcoholics throughout history. But for the grace of God, there would have been thousands more convincing demonstrations. So many want to stop, but cannot.
Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for being a service, and definitely thank you for joining us. And Pickle Chips, welcome home. Good to have you with us this week.
Hi everybody, I'm Terry, aka Pickle Chips, recovered alcoholic. There is a solution. Almost none of us like the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings which the process requires for its successful consummation. But we saw that it really worked in others, and we had come to believe that the hopelessness and futility of life as we have been living it. When, therefore, we are approached by those in whom the problem had been solved, there was nothing left for us but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. We have found much of heaven, and we have been rocketed into the fourth dimension of existence of which we had not even dreamed. The great fact is just this, nothing less, that we have had deep and effective spiritual experiences which have revolutionized our whole attitude toward life, toward our fellows, and toward God's universe. The central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous. He has commenced to accomplish those things for us which we could never do by ourselves. If you are as seriously alcoholic as we were, we believe there is no middle-of-the-road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible. And if we had passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid, we had but two alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could, and the other is to accept spiritual help. This we did because we honestly wanted to and were willing to make the effort.
Thank you so much, Terry. And when we come back to the question segment, folks, we will pick up where Terry started. But now we are going to jump into the spiritual experience, which should be, I believe, page 567. And Art is going to read the spiritual experience for us tonight. 563. No, I'm sorry. My apologies.
Sorry.
569. Nope, that's the medical view. Boy, I'm pulling on the wrong tabs here tonight.
Should be 567 and 568.
Okay, I had it right the first time. So, Art, welcome, sir. And you are muted. You'll have to unmute. Art, you'll have to unmute.
Hello, everybody. My name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. And spiritual experience. The terms spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which upon careful reading shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. Yet it is true that our first printing gave many readers the impression that these personality changes or religious experiences must be in the nature of sudden and spectacular upheavals. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is erroneous. In the first few chapters of a number of sudden revolutionary changes are described. Though it was not our intention to create such an impression, many alcoholics have nevertheless concluded that in order to recover they must acquire an immediate and overwhelming God consciousness, followed at once by a vast change in feeling and outlook. Among our rapidly growing membership of thousands of alcoholics, such transformations, though frequent, are by no means the rule. Most of our experiences are what the psychologist William James calls the educational variety, because they develop slowly over a period of time. Quite often, friends of the newcomer are aware of the difference long before he is himself. He finally realizes that he has undergone a profound alteration in his reaction to life, that such a change could hardly have been brought about by himself alone. What often takes place in a few months could seldom have been accomplished by years of self-discipline. With few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unsuspected inner resource which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. Most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of spiritual experience. Our more religious members call it God consciousness. Most emphatically, we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of honestly facing his problem in the light of our experience can recover, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual concepts. He can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance or belligerent denial. We find that no one need have difficulty with spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery, but these are indispensable. There is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. And that quote comes from Herbert Spencer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Art. Thank you for your participation tonight. And now, folks, we go back to page 25, and then we'll come back to the spiritual experience afterwards. I've got 4 hands up. We could use one more, but if not, we'll go with the 4 that we have. Our batting order is going to be Kenny and hang on. Trish, you got the door? Okay, because it's right in the middle of everything that, and we've got Lynn, and we've got William, and we've got Marilyn, and we've got Pickle Chips. So.
And Steph had her hand up and then put it back down.
Whatever, whatever, 5 or 6, Steph. Either way is fine. If you want to jump in, it'll all be good. You just let me know. Okay, and so Steph. Thank you all so much for your participation. Kenny, coming to you for the first question, page 25. Is there a solution? Oh, everybody can unmute. William and Terry, you need to unmute as well, please. Kenny, is there a solution?
There is a solution.
Thank you very much. And Lynn, 3-part question. A, does the alcoholic like the solution? B, what do they not like? And C, are these actions necessary for success in sobriety?
Almost none of us like self-searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings, which the process requires for its successful consummation.
Thank you. And William, coming to you, 2-part question. A, what gave us hope? And B, what were we faced with when confronted by recovered alcoholics?
But we saw that it really worked in others. And we had to come to believe in the hopelessness and the brutality of life as we have been living it.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Related Pickle, welcome. For those who have adopted this simple kit of spiritual tools as a way of life, what have we experienced? 2 sentences, please. It's a very long sentence.
When therefore we were approached by those in whom the problem had been solved, there was nothing left for us but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. We have found much heaven, and we have been rocketed into a 4th dimension of existence, of which we had not even dreamt.
Thank you so very much. And Pickle Chips, what is a great fact for us?
Great fact is just this and nothing less, that we have had deep and effective spiritual experiences which have revolutionized our whole attitude toward life, toward our fellows, and toward God's universe.
And I'm jumping in with a comment. Notice the asterisks after spiritual experiences. Reading the footnote, it says, fully explained in Appendix 2.
And I forgot to mention, Trish will have a few comments tonight. And Kosher Dill, welcome. Good to see you tonight, sister. What is the central fact of our lives today?
God's universe.
No. Oh, wait. It's a whole sentence starting with the great fact. No, I'm sorry. It'll be the next one, the central fact of our lives.
The central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous.
Thank you. And Kenny, coming to you. What has he commenced doing?
He has commenced to accomplish those things for us which we could never do by ourselves.
Is this a self-help program?
And Organic Pickle. I love that name for you. It's so appropriate. Is there a middle-of-the-road solution for real alcoholics?
Oh, you made me laugh, and now I lost my place. Sorry. Oh gosh, is it if you are
as
I got it. Okay, if you are as seriously alcoholic as we were, we believe that there is no middle of the road solution.
Thank you, and we love laughter around here. Related Pickle, two-part question: how were our lives, and what were the two alternatives?
We were in a position where life was becoming impossible, and that if we had passed into the region from which there is no return to human aid, we had but two alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, blocking out our consciousness of intolerable situations as best we could, and the other to accept spiritual help.
Thank you. And William, I think you're still in this. I just lost your hand. Question coming to you. Why did they accept spiritual help?
Oh, this we did because we earnestly wanted to and were willing to make the effort.
Thank you.
Do these alternatives appear to be step 1 and step 2? And another comment, before proceeding, let's go to Appendix 2 on page 567 in the 4th edition. And I'll give you a minute to flip, and then I have another comment.
You're just full of comments tonight.
I am.
Gee, you think we wrote it into the script that way?
Perhaps. Alrighty. The only significant change that has been made in the basic text, which is the first 164 pages plus the doctor's opinion of the big book, is the one that produced the need for Appendix 2. Step 12 in the first printing read, having had a spiritual experience as the result of this course of action. In reading Bill's story, we read where he had a sudden spiritual experience as the result of these steps. Bob, on the other hand, had a very slowly developed spiritual awakening. Many of those reading the first printing of the big book were not experiencing Bill's hot flash and felt they were missing something. To correct that misconception, Bill reworded step 12 to what it now reads and added Appendix 2 as an explanation.
Very good. Thank you. And Pickle Chips, we will be coming to you for the first question in Appendix 2. The conclusion is what? Read 2 paragraphs, it says.
Okay. The terms spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which, upon careful reading, shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. Yet it is true that our first printing gave many readers the impression that these personality changes or religious experiences must be in the nature of sudden and spectacular upheavals. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is erroneous.
Thank you so much. And Kosher Dill, coming to you. In the stories in the first chapter, which spiritual event was described?
In the first few chapters, a number of sudden revolutionary changes are described.
Thank you. And William, I'm going to put you back into, or no, I'm sorry. Wait, William, hold that thought. I'm going to try and get you guys back in the right rotation. Kenny, did most alcoholics believe they too must have a spiritual experience?
Though it was not our intention to create such an impression, many alcoholics have nevertheless concluded that in order to recover, they must acquire an immediate and overwhelming God consciousness, followed at once by a vast change in feelings and outlook.
Thank you so much. And Organic Pickle, coming to you. Are such transformations frequent?
Among our rapidly growing membership of thousands of alcoholics, such transformations, though frequent, are by no means the rule.
Thank you very much. Now, William, we're going to bring you back into rotation. Two-part question. A, what do most of our members experience? And B, should be what? What did William James call them?
Wow. I got lost there. I'm at a certain American businessman, so I got lost.
It's going to be most of our experiences. Can you find that?
Most of our experience. What page is that?
567.
567.
567. Okay, got you. 567. Excuse. Thanks for your patience. And what you say is that the
Fourth paragraph, second sentence.
third paragraph, second sentence? Fourth. Fourth paragraph.
Yeah, it starts with most of our experiences.
I tell you what, go ahead and pass me because I don't see it.
Okay, Pickle Chip, or I'm sorry, Marilyn, coming to you for the same question. Let me re-ask the question. What do most of our members experience, and what did William James call them?
Most of our experience in what the psychologist William James calls the educational variety, because they develop slowly over a period of time.
Thank you. Pickle Chips, now I'm coming to you. Very often, who are the first to notice that a change has taken place?
Quite often, friends of the newcomer are aware of the difference long before he is himself.
Thank you very much. And Kosher Dill, two-part question. A, what does the alcoholic finally realize? And B, could he have accomplished this himself?
He finally realizes that he has undergone a profound alteration in his reaction to life, that such a change could hardly have been brought about by himself alone.
Thank you very much. Kenny, coming back to you. What could seldom have been accomplished by self-discipline?
What often takes place in a few months could seldom have been accomplished by years of self-discipline.
Thank you very much. And Organic Pickle, two-part question. A, with few exceptions, what do we all tap into? And B, what do they identify this to be?
With few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unexpected inner resource, which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves.
Thank you very much. And moving along, William, we're going to try you again. Question is, what do most think?
Most of us think the awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of a spiritual experience.
Thank you so much. And related pickle, what do religious folks call it?
Our more religious members call it a God consciousness.
Thank you. Pickle chips, two-part question. A, do we wish to say emphatically, what do we wish to say emphatically to any alcoholic? And B, what is the one condition the alcoholic must meet?
Most emphatically, we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of honestly facing his problem in the light of our experience can recover, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual concepts.
Thank you so much. And kosher dill, what will defeat an alcoholic?
He can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance or belligerent denial.
Thank you so much. And Kenny, coming back to you, my friend, what is it that no one should have difficulty with?
We find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program.
Thank you. And organic pickle, what are the essentials of recovery?
Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery.
Thank you. William, how important are they?
But they are indismissible.
Thank you. And related pickle, you get the final question of the night. What will keep a person in everlasting ignorance?
This is a principle which is a bar against of all information, which is the proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt. That ignorance in principle to contempt prior to investigation. Hubert Spencer.
This is the first time that we visit spiritual experience in the study. We will revisit it this way throughout the study 2 more times. And then in our final week of the study, week 94, we will do a standalone study of Appendix 2, the spiritual experience.
Thank you so much, folks. Well done. It's always interesting when we end up splitting portions of the book and then jumping back and then jumping back again. Feel like a ping pong ball, maybe? So now, thank you all for your participation. Everybody can remute, and the meeting is now open for questions, observations, experience, spiritual experience. Please, by all means, feel free to share where you are with this information. Or curiosities about it, or anything. Hi, Steph.
Hi there, Stephanie, recovered alcoholic. I have a question, please.
Okay.
Can you please explain to me the quote at the end of the spiritual experience?
Herbert Spencer.
Yes.
It was an addition that I'm not sure the exact sourcing of it for Bill when he put it in, but it is probably one of the most powerful things worth quoting of all. I don't believe Herbert Spencer was an alcoholic, but the idea of that quote is that there is a principle, which is a bar against all information. A bar would be a block, right? A blockade against the information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. How many of us in our lives have ever said, no, that can't be right. That's not the way it works. That's not possible. And yet we never investigated to see if it was a possibility, not only for others, but for ourselves as well.
And the other thing about that is that that's being in denial. We never faced that until we had to take a look at ourselves, because I was in everlasting ignorance until I was actually able to see what was going on with me.
Thank
Does that make sense?
Thank
It
you.
does. Does that answer the question, Steph?
Somewhat, thank you.
Okay.
I'll jump in real quick. I'm Trish, I'm an alcoholic. And I remember one night after a meeting, way back when, a bunch of us were talking to somebody who was outside the meeting, didn't want to come in. He was court ordered and was told, you need to come. And he's like, I ain't doing that A&A stuff. You're gonna make me quit drinking. And whether he wanted to look at the fact that maybe he should quit drinking, he wasn't willing to consider the fact that maybe AA could help him, maybe he could, maybe it wouldn't. But he wasn't even willing to walk in the door and find out what it was. So that was his contempt prior to investigation, of just automatically shutting his mind of, I'm not going just because I don't want to, instead of trying to figure out what it is and is it going to help.
Thank you, Trish. Kathy, welcome, my friend.
Hi, Kathy, still alcoholic, and my take on that is ego and pride. When you give somebody an idea and they tell you, "Oh, I know," well, the minute that you say, "I know," then I don't have to go any further because you feel you've already got the answer, and so that's for me. What keeps people ignorant, not going into a place like free. I want to say like discrimination, pre-discrimination against an idea when you have contempt for it, like Trish was saying, the unwillingness to think about a thing a certain way, and what we see on page 567 is how many times it says change in that on that page. We have to change the person who brought us in, or that person is going to bring us right back out. It says we have to change, or we have to get rid of smash our old ideas. So in the first paragraph, it says, shows that personality change sufficient to bring about recovery, and then sudden and spectacular upheavals, and then overwhelming change of God consciousness, followed by a vast change in feeling and outlook, and then transformation, which is change, profound alteration, which is change. So change comes up a lot on that one page, and I think that that's what has happened to me over time, and it was over time. I had what I consider spiritual experiences prior to this, but after doing the steps and after living a sober life and living in prayer and living in the Alcoholics Anonymous program for a long period of time, a lot has changed, and my idea of a higher power has changed over time as well. And I think that that's important, that we continue to change, continue to grow, continue to expand our thinking, that we're never really done until we are, you know. But hopefully I still have more time to go. So thanks for letting me share that.
Thank you, my friend. Glad you were here. So I did a little more research on Herbert Spencer and who he was through this, and maybe this will help answer part of the question. Herbert Spencer was an English philosopher and psychologist. He was born April 27th, 1820, and died December 8th, 1903. So obviously he was not a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. But like so much of the information that is in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill had this wonderful way of doing research from others and putting it together in our book. Even though we're not there yet, in a few weeks we will read a story in More About Alcoholism. It will be The Man of 30. He wasn't a member of Alcoholics Anonymous either, but he's somebody that Bill did research work on. And you know, in that we learn about the progression of the disease. We learn that even if we stop for long periods of time, we don't necessarily, that our disease certainly doesn't stop. So that's a little bit on Herbert Spencer. I'll share more about my perception of the quote when I share. The floor is yours, folks. Art, come on in, my friend.
Oh my, what happened here? Okay, here we go.
We've got you, but not a lot of volume.
Yeah, I was just kind of talking under my breath. Hi everybody, my name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. And I'm going to take a stab at answering the question that was put forth. I think what it kind of hinges on is a concept of what does it mean to have contempt. And it's actually a legal term. And when you're when a judge slaps a fine on someone for contempt of court, what that really means is that the person has showed disrespect for the rules of the court. And so in this context, contempt means that that I know better than you do, and you're not going to teach me anything. And so, and that's how we get that contempt prior to investigation is what keeps us in eternal ignorance. Because it's like the old saying, the most difficult person to teach is someone who already knows it. Or thinks they do anyway. So a person who has contempt for the idea of a spiritual experience is the one who says, either he says, I have already, in which this was me from the beginning, I've already tried that avenue of living and it didn't work for me. So I'm not going to look at your ideas. Or is the person who says, I already know that, and you can't teach me any more about it. And that's the context of this quote, that contempt prior to investigation simply means that I don't need to investigate your way because I already know it's not going to work. Therefore, I'm not going to learn anything from you. Because in my mind, you have nothing to teach me. And that's kind of what this quote is getting to, is that so long as my mind is closed to the idea that you have something useful to me, I can't be reached. In my own experience, when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I looked at those steps and I thought, no way this is going to be any good for me. And the primary reason that I thought that is because of all the God that's in the steps, which really is not all that much, but it's enough to have given me the idea that I spent a good portion of my life at that point studying God and Bible and all of that, the religion. And so I really didn't know the difference between religion and spirituality. And the other reason I thought it would probably wasn't going to work for me is because it was too simple. You know, I figured that anything as simple as this could not possibly have any impact whatsoever on the complicated problems of my life. You people just don't understand. Had I kept those attitudes, I would probably still be where I was when I came here. But fortunately, I was in a state of such desperation that I became willing to open the crack and let a little bit of that information flow into my spirit. And as I let it flow in a little bit at a time, and the spiritual experience talks about the slow manifestations over a period of time, and that's how it was for me. Because I had to let it in a little at a time. But as time went on, I began to understand that there is a vast difference between spirituality and religion, and that the God that I grew up with isn't necessarily the same God that I have to believe in. Now, where that goes from there is, you know, however each individual takes it. But many of us have had unfortunate and very negative experiences with religion, with organized religion, sectarian religion. And it kind of gives us a bad taste in the mouth, so to speak, about religious concepts. But what we do here in Alcoholics Anonymous is not religion. It encompasses all religions, but it's not religion. it's the spirituality of a personal connection to a power greater than myself. Some places in the book it's called my creator, sometimes it's called God, sometimes it's called whatever you want it to be. But whatever name we put on it is not important. What is important is that I become willing to open up my mind just enough to allow these concepts to grab a hold and give me a basis for living. So that quote at the end, I love that quote, and I use it often. But I think in order to really understand what it's trying to tell us, we have to understand the context of that word, contempt. And hopefully that helps to clarify your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. I am going to go ahead and jump in for a minute here. Hi, family. My name is Jamie. I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic and very grateful all of you are here tonight. I'm going to bounce back and forth between both readings, and maybe it'll make sense why I do that afterwards. But I'm going to talk about the Herbert Spencer quote first. My mother got sober 17 years before I got sober. My mother was one of my best drinking buddies. It was really cute to watch her hop on one leg out to my motorcycle to go down to the liquor store and hop on one leg into the liquor store since she was an amputee. And we'd get a couple of cases of beer and a fifth of vodka and take them back to the house and a carton of cigarettes, and we'd start drinking. So when she got sober, Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm one of the people that begged her to get sober, by the way, or do something about her drinking. Alcoholics Anonymous took one of my best friends away from me. But Alcoholics Anonymous also gave me something I never had. They gave me the mother that I never possibly knew through her program of recovery. So for years, through that 17 years, as she watched me hit my bottom, she would do this to me all the time. She would slide pamphlets across the table to me. She wouldn't preach A to me, but she'd say things like, easy does it, one day at a time, honey, you might have a problem drinking, so on and so forth. And I'd say, every time, don't give me none of that AA crap and a whole lot more colorful language, because it works for you, but it will not work for me. That was my contempt prior to investigation. And the point in time in my life came when God saw fit that I was ready to investigate, not out of willingness, but out of desperation, and brought me to you guys. And through the course of action of taking the steps, I not only found the God, non-religious God, in fact, though I do claim the Trinity as my higher power, and I can do that. And guess what? You don't have to have the Trinity for the power greater than yourself. That's who my higher power is. Because it's the God of my own understanding and the freedom and responsibility each one of us in Alcoholics Anonymous is given through step 3 to find a power that will work for us, and yours doesn't have to look like mine or Art's or anybody else's. It just has to be something that will work through us. So bouncing back into page 25 tonight, there is a solution. Almost none of us like the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings, which the process requires for its successful consummation. How many of us have been around here for decades and still hate taking a look at ourselves? Because we don't want to see the painful truth about ourselves. But it is still a requirement for us to do that in order for us to be free and not live in the mental playground that will destroy us physically, spiritually, and emotionally. I can't take your inventory. Me taking your inventory isn't going to change you one bit. Me taking my inventory will definitely change me. So as it goes on here, but we saw it really worked in others, and we had come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of life as we had been living it. When therefore we were approached by those whom the problem had been solved, there was nothing left for us but to pick up a kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. We found much of heaven and have been rocketed into the fourth dimension of existence, of which we had not even dreamed. That fourth dimension is that spiritual awakening or spiritual experience. There are many people who will never open our book and read it. There are many people who will only try to stay sober on meetings and try and get sobriety through osmosis. There are many people who will never come to a book study and try and understand what the book is really saying to us. It's not up to me to judge that. It's only up to me to present an opportunity for them to do that if they want to. So, moving on through, I'm going to go ahead and jump into back into the spiritual experience. Anybody happen to notice what it says on my ceiling with the two spoons? That it's not the how, but it's the who. One of the things that we hear in Alcoholics Anonymous all the time, because it's on our coins, is honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. But that's not what the book really tells us. The book tells us what we read in the last two sentences of the spiritual experience before we go into the Herbert Spencer quote. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery. I believe that there is a natural order of words and there's a natural order of the way that Bill used the words. I didn't get honest by coming to Alcoholics Anonymous. I wasn't honest when I walked in the doors. I didn't know how to be. But I was willing to do whatever it took to not pick up the first drink. And that led me to good sponsorship, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and taking the steps. So the willingness had to come first. Through that, I started to develop honesty because as I started taking the steps, especially step 4, and taking a look at myself and finding my own defects of character and shortcomings, and looking at the truth about me, good, bad, or indifferent, I saw that there was a solution, which brought me to open-mindedness, that I could change under any and all conditions of life. So I don't believe it's the how, I believe it's the who. Who's the who? It's not Cindy Lou Who. The who becomes the God of our own understanding. In my case, the God of my experience. And when I continue to do this work and to follow it because of willingness. I continue to get more honest with myself. I continue to tell more truth about myself all the time. And I certainly become willing to stay open-minded, to go to whatever possibilities God may lead me. The important significance of living one day at a time, and the idea, you know, on page 85 of our book, it talks about every day is the vision of the day in which we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities. It doesn't say anything about carrying Jamie's will into my activities, but the vision of God's will. I don't always know what that is. And if I am living in the past, I can tell you God's will's not there unless I'm doing something to make amends for the wrongs that I may have done. And that's probably the only place that God's will exists, in my past. And the future's not here, and I can't predict it and forecast it and all of that stuff. So I have no idea. So all I have is the present moment. And if I live in the practice of today, chances are that God is going to reveal His will to me, one text at a time, one phone call at a time, one meeting at a time. And by the time my head hits the pillow, I will have a reasonable feeling in my heart that I have gone through my day doing some semblance of God's will. And I'll tell you, it's easy to step away from it as well. On page 85, it talks about it is easy to let up on a spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We are headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle tongue. And it goes on to say something to the effect of, we are never cured of alcoholism. Really what we have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Today's the only day in my life when I can live a spiritual condition. Have I lived it in the past? Yes. And tomorrow's not here. How can I live something that's not here yet? But today I can. I'll shut up with this. One of the things that I have come to understand, there's people that disagree with this, and that's okay. I believe through the process of the first 11 steps, I had 11 separate spiritual experiences, because even in step 1 in surrendering to the powerlessness of my alcohol was a spiritual experience in itself, because I began to let go of some of the pride and ego and the things that kept me tethered to the bottle. And so by the time I get to step 12, which says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, I've had 11 collective spiritual experiences that have awakened my sleeping spirit. And I think that's pretty cool. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but it always materializes if we work for them. I'm glad you're all here. And there is time.
Xavier had his hand up.
Okay, Xavier, come on in, brother.
All right, good evening, Xavier, recovered alcoholic. Glad to be here, as always. Fascinating. I loved everyone's share tonight, and I really appreciate the reading and appreciate the topics that we've been talking about. So, contemporary investigation, I just pulled up ChatGPT. I was curious what AI said. And it noted a phrase that suggests a person has formed a negative opinion about something without first without having first thoroughly explored or researched it, implying closed-mindedness for one dismisses or ridicules an idea or concept before taking the time to understand it fully, et cetera, et cetera. What I found is when it comes to Alcoholics Anonymous, it's important that I, remain open-minded, that I'm willing, open-minded, and honest when I take this information in. It doesn't. I'm very comfortable being closed-minded and contempt about some things like flat Earth, for example. The reality is, I don't know if flat Earth is real. I've never been to space. And when people talk about flat Earth, I assume they're crazy. They might not be. They could be right. I could be the crazy one. But I've chosen to have contempt. And I'm choosing to never explore or be open-minded about flat Earth for whatever reason. But when it comes to Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't have that luxury of having contempt if I want to really practice this program. So being open-minded about prayer, about meditation, about inventory, about sponsoring others, about learning these tools and applying it to my tool chest to the real world, it's important that I have that willingness, that I'm open-minded, that I have that honesty. It's incredibly, incredibly important so that I can fully take it in and have these experiences, and as a result, get closer to my higher power. Where I see it apply the most, like practically, is inventory. And what I found in the past is when I've done 4-step inventory, I often found that I had contempt for people in my past, and I told myself stories. And when I was willing to open my mind and do the mechanics like it describes in the book, I found that often I was literally wrong about the past. Like I just didn't understand the objective facts correctly. And when I was willing to put pen to paper and allow my higher power to help me, I saw the past differently for what it was. And like the side effect, one of the side effects is I found forgiveness, et cetera, et cetera. But that would be an example where walking into this program, I had contempt often about people in my past, and I had stories that I told myself. And by having that willingness, by having that honesty, by having that open-mindedness, when I did my step 4 and then a step 5, I was able to see things differently and objectively learn things differently. I was able to get out of ignorance. So that implies that I was literally walking around this planet ignorant about my past with facts that weren't correct. So that I think would be a very practical example. So just to kind of full circle, there are things, because we only have a certain amount of bandwidth with our limited brains, at least my limited brain. There are some things I'm very comfortable having contempt for, like flat Earth. But when it comes to AA, it's important that I have that willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Good to see you. Well, Trish.
Jamie.
It's the top of the hour. You want to share before you read us out?
I can do that.
Oh, and William's got his hand up too, so we will certainly allow for that.
Okay. I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic. And a lot of what I was going to say has already been said, but I can just echo it and put my own spin on it. The beginning of the reading where Terry read, almost none of us like the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings, which the process requires for successful consummation. Contempt prior to investigation. There was no way I was going to tell anyone anything about me. Because I knew talking about it wasn't going to work, and it wasn't your business anyway. But by watching other people who were there before me, who came in after me, who came in years after me, and I was still holding on to some stuff, and watching them grow and learn and pass me, slowly broke down those walls to the point that maybe I wasn't quite so willing to do the self-searching and the leveling of my pride and the confession of shortcomings, but I was at least willing to consider doing it. But then once I started that process and experienced the growth in myself rather than just watching it in other people, my contempt, well, my whining continued, but my contempt went lower because I saw it working. And, you know, I love the spiritual experience and the way that in the back of the book and the way that it points out that the spiritual awakenings that Bill and Bob had were so different. And yes, in the beginning, people looked at the white light experience that Bill had and started feeling like they weren't doing it right because they didn't have it the same way he did. And while that never crossed my mind, I had those conversations with people, and I came to the conclusion that I may not have ever seen a burning bush in my life where God was in the center of it, burning it up and nothing was burning. But I've seen an awful lot, I have felt an awful lot of gentle breezes. And if I open my awareness to those soft touches rather than the dousing flame, I can still see and feel that spirituality. I can still see God in the small things, not just in the big things. And, you know, I'm a walker, and I know a lot of you know that, and some of you don't, but now you do. And a lot of times when I go out hiking or I'm going downtown, I'm praying when I walk, I'm talking to God while I walk, and I'm always noticing the little things. Sometimes it's the clouds and the breeze, but it's the little bitty flowers that are growing up through the broken concrete. And how much effort did that soft, tender sprout have to put out to grow up through the crack in the sidewalk? And that just makes me realize that I don't have to have the big thunderbolt in my life in order to see and experience God. I just have to be open and aware of everything around me, and I will see God in those small things as long as I'm looking for it. William, your turn.
My name is William. I'm an alcoholic, and thank everybody for helping me stay sober. Thanks everybody for sharing tonight. And whenever we read something, back up, I get a chance to see, because this is an action program, and I like the way William James, the doctor, say that spiritual experience come through well, most of it, Bill had the white light experience, but most of it come through the education way. And then it went on to say about that higher power, and minds come through being conscious of the information that y'all gave me, and I remember as a kid, they used to tell us, say, you look at a book and read the cover, and you think you know what's inside it, and that's sort of like a life is the same way, and how I began to do that, as I began to share and talk in alcohol and have these conversations with people in Alcoholics Anonymous, I found myself more or less cutting them off in the middle of what they were saying, and whatever they told me, I thought I knew what they were going to say before they finished telling me what they were. Now, how did I work on that? It's an action program. What I did is learn how to keep my mouth closed and listen to what they had to say, and then I could sort of do whatever needed to be done with whatever they told me about what the information was they were trying to communicate to me. So, and I definitely continue to learn how to live this program in a peaceful way through the reading of the literature. And definitely tonight, the spiritual experience and all the stuff that they read tonight really helped me to continue to go spiritual, and definitely, I said church member, I went to church, but I as a young kid, and you say people from church call it a God conscious. And I often said it. I said it before I even read it in the book. I became God conscious. The revolution in my mind, my thinking began to change from what I came in here. And like somebody said, like Ija. Deny is not a really an Ija. They used to tell us that all the time in the meeting and stuff. So anyhow, that's my take on it, and thank you so much for allowing me to share.
Thank you, William. And before you leave, brother, I want to tell you something before you leave tonight. Trish is going to read us out. I want to thank all of you for being here. And you know, the thing I love about all of you guys is you guys are primary purpose. You guys are the meeting. You guys are the solution in action. And I'm grateful for that. I'm very grateful for that. This meeting doesn't work without you. So I'm grateful for all of you being here. Thank you to all of you for your participation. Trish.
From page 164. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past, give freely of what you find, and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Thank you so much. You know, I say this at every meeting, and it's true. But I'd like to ask everybody to just reflect as we take that moment of silence. Each and every one of us has known somebody who's died from alcoholism or is dying from alcoholism. Maybe it's been a friend, a family member, a parent, maybe it's a child. It's going to be 263 alcoholics who died today from our disease. 95,000 nationwide this year, and 3 million worldwide. Those are pretty accurate figures, and that doesn't include other addictions, but those are directly related to alcoholism. We're all here because somebody prayed for us when we really couldn't pray for ourselves. So let's take a moment of silence and then pray out in the Lord's Prayer and keep those others in our thoughts and minds. So, and the way we close out around here is we virtually circle up and hold our hands together, since we can't hold hands like we do in a bricks and mortar meeting. And here's your moment of silence. Thank you. And if you'd like to unmute and join me, you're more than welcome to. Who will take us from shame to grace if we let him? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
On earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil.
Power and glory, forever and ever. Amen. And the meeting is over and we stop the recording, but that doesn't mean you have to leave. You can stick around and chat, continue to talk about this if you like, or whatever happens to be on your heart.